We're live. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good. So we have a really, really interesting topic, a review of an amazing article from the desk of none other than Rob Wolf, co-founder of LMNT and Healthy Rebellion and Paleo Solution and Wired to Eat. And what's the other one? I'm forgetting. What other great book? Anyway,
Sacred Cow or something.
Sacred Cow. You're right. No, you got it. That's it. That's it. That's it.
Yep. Yep.
So today we're going to talk about electrolyte imbalance versus electrolyte deficiency, which is a really important distinction.
Yeah. When we talk about this, people are usually referring to um, they're not the same, and they need to be distinguished. And Rob broke this down pretty well. So go ahead and take it away, Noah, and let's get into
Yeah,
it.
sure. So electrolyte imbalance is what you see when you get blood work. Then you're looking at your comprehensive metabolic panel, and you're looking at like potassium and sodium, and if there's an imbalance in those electrolytes, that's not trivial. That's a big deal, and that includes things like kidney or heart failure, overhydration, diuretic medication, vomiting or diarrhea because of illness, consuming too much alcohol. So it's kind of it is a serious metabolic condition, and that would be the imbalance or the electrolyte imbalance.
Yes. And what's the difference between that and a deficiency?
A deficiency is what we've been talking about for so long now with consuming the right amount of electrolytes. So that's electrolyte deficiency is usually seen when you're not consuming enough salt, basically, but it also can include magnesium and potassium, and that's usually seen with symptomatology like muscle cramps, headaches, insomnia, irritability, brain fog, dizziness, weakness. So it's very different than imbalance, but very, very important. And that's why we've been beating the drum, particularly if you work out heavily or in the summertime, or if you sweat or go into the sauna, to have the right or consume the right amount of electrolytes on a daily basis.
Yeah, and some of the other things like long-term deficiency, we can see, for example, if you're not getting enough magnesium or calcium, can lead to bone density issues, and if you're not getting enough, I lost my train of thought. Oh, if you're not getting enough potassium, it could actually lead to high blood pressure. So really interesting in looking at this and the potential um, signs and symptoms of having a electrolyte deficiency.
I mean, it is, and he goes on. It's an article. It's promoting his company LMNT, which I'm totally fine with. But he talks about using salt liberally. If you don't want to buy LMNT, he always has a recipe for make at home uh, electrolyte supplement with things like magnesium, which we talked about for over 10 years. And then, of course, using something like LMNT or Element on a daily basis to make sure you're consuming enough salt and your magnesium levels are right and your potassium levels are in check.
And he points out some really like if you want to assess your sodium status, you want to assess your potassium status and magnesium status, and what he says that there's really good evidence that we should be taking in 4 to 6 grams a day if you're sedentary.
Right.
And if you're active, somebody like yourself, Noah, who runs and runs in this heat, in between us, as I tell my patients, I walk generally in the office 3 to 3.5 miles a day. Those people should be taking as much as 10 grams a day or
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. It really depends on your activity level, how
Yes.
much you're sweating, um, how much of these electrolytes are in your foods. But it's important that it's just becoming more and more. I mean, how many people come into the office, Mike, that you see on a daily basis that's complaining of leg cramps or
Oh, all the time.
headaches
Okay.
or these things like And you know, it's just it's you know, managing your electrolytes properly is an easy fix for a lot of common ailments that we see in a day in and day out basis.
Yeah, just look at the symptoms of low sodium or sodium deficiency: tiredness, headaches, muscle cramps, brain fog, or it could even be mistaken as carb cravings.
Yeah.
That's a lot of our folks that we see every day.
You could take it a step forward and with James Nicoletano with his book on salt, where salt is quite possibly the number one athletic enhancer, performance enhancer prior to competition too. Because when
Yep,
you consume the right amount of salt, it increases your blood volume, and when you increase your blood volume, you're circulating more oxygen. I mean, there's just so many reasons to have salt, magnesium, potassium in check. The list goes on and on and on and on.
absolutely. And what he recommends is a great little application that you can use is the chronometer, which you can log all your information into, and it will give you a pretty good. It will spit out. I don't know if you ever tried it,
Mm.
but it will spit out a pretty decent idea of where you're deficient, and that's chronometer. We'll spell it Kronometer.
Yep. So if you're ever interested in wanting to try or purchase Element, we usually have some in the office somewhere, a couple boxes, sample packs, but um, we feel that's probably the best one out there. But there are a couple other ones too, like Noon. I think Noon is one, right? There's a couple other ones,
Yeah,
right?
and Emma uses liquid IV.
Hmm.
Um, so, and some of the just a real quick hit on some of the electrolyte rich foods you can use
Uh,
for sodium. Consume salt. Use Himalayan or Celtic sea salt. For potassium, consume dark leafy greens, meat, potatoes, and fruit. For magnesium, dark leafy greens, and the magnesium sits at the center of the chlorophyll molecule, and nuts. And then for calcium, you want to consume dairy, bones, and cruciferous vegetables.
yeah, that's a good point, Mike. You could always look to food first before you do just about anything, and I would consider salt as a food. So,
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
all right, we're open 3 to 6 as always, fully staffed, and we'll be back here next week with a talk on 4 supplements to enhance and to improve your sleep.
Yep. Bye, guys.